Whoa!
You know what that sound means, folks? It's August. It's drafting season. It's fantasy football. Let's get into it. I'm your host, Nathan Bond. Joined alongside me, Seth Varnadore, Robert Steeg. This is Pod by the BAE, proudly presented by the Bay Area Examiner. If you guys are new to this rendition, we started last year. We are going to basically do a three-man fantasy draft of USF football players this season. And then the undrafted folks, we do a best of the rest every single week that add up the point totals, and we figure out who was very good, who was very bad. And we kind of do standard scoring. A couple caveats. Quarterback points, as we learned last year, tough to come by because they only count if the team wins.
I think this year maybe we can leave that out if the second and third stringers don't get blown out. Don't enter the transfer portal. Before the season starts. that kind of ruined the game a little bit. But
a little bit. It was kind of gave me a leg up very early on, like 3 days after the draft. So there's that, and then I know we drafted offensive linemen, but it was so hard to figure out how to score them without being, mean if there was a holding penalty or anything like that. So we've actually switched it. Offensive line, no more, but it's going to be an all-position flex. So I'll give you a quick rundown, and then we'll do the draft randomizer.
I do have one question. Do I get any, post-mortem points for drafting DeMontre Jacobs and him being in an NFL camp this year? Can I add points to my total from last year?
No.
I mean,
all right. I'm just asking.
So last year we stopped keeping track after I think it was right before the Temple game, and I think we all kind of knew why.
Yeah, I think the Temple game came. We're like, we're good.
We're
hot board, baby.
Clearly, I won. Going away, the duo of Brian Petit and Xavier Weaver really carried me home. Steeg, quick question before we get into the position breakdowns. Do you know how to draft now?
You know what? I did a lot of research on this one, so I know how to draft now. I know the premise of the game.
Okay.
I understand it. That's not to say I won't absolutely put a shoe in my mouth, but
got it.
We'll see what I can manage.
For those of you that missed last year, Steeg drafted converted safety with his quarterback pick that hadn't played at all, and then proceeded to draft in position order instead of best player available for the remainder of the draft. So there were a few reaches in there, and and to that point, as Nathan mentioned, he won. He finished the year with 385 points. I was second with 339 points. Then the leftovers had 309 points. And Steeg ended the year with 207.9 points. So,
didn't I win 1 week? Or did I won of the three of us, but I didn't include, not including
you won,
the best
I
of the
think
rest.
The FCS game you won.
Count it. Put it on the books.
I'm pretty sure it was. I think it was the game. Was it Tulane or something like that when Jason Littlejohn had 2 touchdowns?
He won week 2. It looks like.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Well, he beat us.
In my life.
Yeah, I think the leftovers won the entire week. So
we'll draft a quarterback. Doesn't have to be in order, Steve. We're going to be perfectly clear on that. Quarterback, running back, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, a defensive lineman, and a linebacker, and a defensive back, and then 1 flex position that you get to pick what position you draft. Non-quarterback flex, standard stuff. We're not playing a 2 QB league.
I mean, if you want,
as much as Steve probably wants.
If you want, you can take.
We don't
Right.
have
Well,
like a super athletic two-way player that I can
Right.
draft, so I'm gonna pass on that.
We ended the year saying if Steeg's quarterback ever got in the game, he would automatically win the entire season, and we
Yes.
got pretty close.
We
Actually.
got really close in that Temple game.
Way too close. But let's get to it. Let's do the random draft randomizer, however you want to do that, Seth, and then we'll get cracking on this. I've done the appropriate amount of research that I do for every fantasy football draft. I have glanced at the roster, and then I just kind of go by ADP. So,
all right. So here we go. Let's see here. Let's get this a little bit larger here. Okay, good. Didn't help at all. All right. Generate draft order. I'm doing this live. There we go.
Oh yeah!
First pick, Seth the second pick, Nathan with the third pick.
and we're snake drafting this, right?
Yes. So,
Perfect.
not the best spot. I think everybody's probably fairly happy with their spots here, but I wouldn't have minded 3. But all right, so
Steeg, you're up.
as Tobias Puke said, let the great experiment begin.
Let the greatness happen. Now I know we're not going to do like long spiels on like why we're drafting, but I will.
No, you can.
Oh, I will. Oh, perfect. Well, I know the obvious choice here is to go with quarterback.
Oh no.
But with the variability of who the starting quarterback is going to be and how injury prone one quarterback is and how young the other one is, and we might have a little back and forth. And without a surefire starter that I can go out there and say, yeah, this guy's probably going to be playing most of the games this year. We don't know how this offense has been in scrimmages because they refuse to tell us. I'm going to go with what I'm going to call is the safety pick, the safe pick that I can take here, and that's Naquan Wright. I think that this offense is going to be very run heavy. Golish has said it multiple times that running back room is deep, deep, deep. Naquan Wright is it's a workhorse back from Florida, or transfer from Florida, that I think is going to be, well, we know is going to be running back 1. But hearing that he's never dropped a pass out of the backfield, catching out of Florida, they're going to find the best way to put the best players on the field and get the balls in their hands. And by God, is Naquan Wright not one of the best players on this team right now?
I think that could be a very productive pick for you, Steeg.
Look at our boy growing.
I think you got a first round pick that I think is going to play quite a bit this year. That's a big upgrade.
That's a massive upgrade. If Naquan Wright, actually, no, I'm not going to say that part.
No.
Anyways.
All right.
Well, I think so. It's to me, with that pick, I'm actually going to have to go a little different. I was thinking about going one direction here that wasn't super obvious, but with Steeg's pick, I'm going to go ahead and take Kelly Joyner then. So I'm going to go 1-2, get Kelly Joyner. He showed some versatility in the spring. He seems like a guy that want to get the ball in his hand. I think he's had him in a pretty good camp. So let me go ahead and take him because I think running back is somewhat deep, but I think he's just a guy that's going to be a big playmaker this year. So let me go ahead and grab him now. Now, Nathan, you got to go back to back.
Yeah. Running back heavy. What is this, 1995? Let's keep it simple. I'm going to go with Michael Brown-Stevens, the graduate transfer from Minnesota, as my first pick.
Okay.
And then I'm going to take and then for my second round pick, I am going to take DJ Gordon.
Okay, DJ Gordon.
I also just realized we don't have the draft board up in front of us, so I'm having to scramble to write down my positions and who everyone has drafted.
Dude, I can throw one up if you'd like. It's not going to be the prettiest thing for YouTube, but
Frankly, I just need something visual because I'm gonna forget that DJ Gordon is gone in like 3 picks. So
All right, let me throw that up for you then. So I'm gonna go. Let's put our pretty faces back on it. No, not like that. All right, so I'm gonna just me. I think I'm gonna go. So it's coming back around here. I'm gonna go. Just because I think there's some. I don't know how the depth. What are we considering? Like the Bandits. We're considering those D line, right?
I'm considering those guys D line. Correct.
I want to take Lloyd Summerall.
Good pick. Good pick.
I think he's got a chance to have a good year. Steeg, back to you. You get 2 picks in a row here.
Ooh, lucky me. This first one, I'm going to go with Mr. Steady Jason Vaughn.
Good pick.
Love a single-digit defensive lineman. Those are always good in my book. And this with the wraparound, I'm gonna do a little wraparound here. This one I'm going to go for it. Byron Brown.
Interesting. First quarterback off the board, Byron Brown. USF just threw out a little post about quarterback Gary Bohannon making Bruce Feldman's freak list. I think he checked in at number 94 this season. Second year in a row, USF has had a guy on the freak list. Gary will be looking to actually play well after coming off the freak list after last season's somewhat disappointing year. I think, Seth, you drafted Will Jones last year and didn't really see the fruit of the labor.
Let me tell I got to tell you, I'm not – yeah, we're not – this is not – we're not a friend of the freak list. The freak list really put it on me last year. Gonna be honest.
They gotta come up with a better name than the freak list because to like the uneducated on that, like you're like Gary. I mean, Gary is noticeably like thicker than the other quarterbacks. Like that picture that you posted, Nate. Like he's notably like.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Mrs. Met has some competition.
All right, well, this may end up sinking me here, but
going back to the well.
Yeah, I'm gonna actually go Amaris Brown.
Good pick. He's shown some flashes in some of the highlights that we've seen. A lot of positive talk kind of leading into camp that he has kind of taken a step forward and become a leader on the defensive side of the ball. I think he could be an exciting piece for that Tower Orlando defense. Solid pick there in the second round for Seth.
I thought he was a guy that flashed a lot last year.
Third round, I guess I should say.
I thought he was a guy that flashed a lot last year. Seems to have, as the kids say, that dog in him a little bit. So I like him as a DB. I think he may be ready to take a step forward a little bit this year, like you're saying, and hopefully he can build on this good camp he's having. So I think he's kind of the lead. I think he's the for sure number 1 corner. So if I can just grab him now, and I'll take that.
Yeah, and then for me, I'm going to see correct me if I'm wrong here, guys, and maybe this is just my feeling. It feels like after MBS, it's just a whole lot of question marks from – okay, who's kind of really stood out? I know Yusuf Terry had a good spring. Naeem Simmons has had some great stuff. But where do I see the most value with the last pick of the third round or last pick of the third round? Getting value. Is it a wide receiver? Shoot, is it getting a top end tight end like a Travis Kelce? There's not a Travis Kelce on this roster, but position scarcity is also a thing, so you have to kind of combat that, right? So with that being said, I'm going to take Gary Bohannon.
I think it's a great pick.
It is a good pick. The way you were leading up to that, I was like, who the hell are you going to draft?
Right. I think it's a great pick.
It's a bit of a fall from grace. He was 1-1 last season. So he did take a hit. He Did lose some talent around him, but I think it's a safe pick. And then come back around, I am going to take Braxton Clark, the DB, who by all accounts has had a pretty dang good camp so far as he transfers over. I'm excited to see what he can do, and I won't call it hype, but maybe he's actually good, and that would go a long way. He's lanky, 6'4", 204. That's a big corner. All right, so I'm excited for that. Braxton Clark is your hot fuzz staple cornerback.
I like it. All right, back to me. I'm going to go receiver. I'm going to go a guy that I think fits this offense really well if he can stay healthy, and he's had a pretty good camp from what we've heard, and he made some plays while we were there. I'm going to go with Chaffee Brown. I think he's a guy that can play outside in this offense and maybe put up some numbers. So we go Chaffee Brown here in the 4th round. Steeg, back to you for the back-to-back.
Ooh, the back-to-back's my favorite. So this first one, I feel like I was surprised, but also not surprised knowing that Amaris Brown and Braxton Clark are there. Ben Knox, I feel like is a pretty safe and not giving him enough credit for his preseason accolades and how much he's progressed over the last year. He's a guy that the only USF player to be featured on a watch list.
Danny Werfel award, correct?
Yep.
I think. Yeah.
Yep.
The Danny Werfel. So got to give him credit. I'm expecting a big step up from Ben Knox and company. I've seen the clips and everything, and he's been featured a few times here and there. So he's my sleeper pick at corner there. I know Daquan Evans is still around and everything, but with this defense being a 3-3-5, I'm not sure which of those DBs are going to be on the field at any particular time. And then on that wraparound, I gotta go with my current favorite obsession, Jason Littlejohn, number 0, tight ends number 0. That's silly. That's stupid. Don't do that. But absolutely do that. I love it. The tight friends, as Gunnar Greenwald has affectionately called them. I'm pretty sure all 3 of those tight friends that were featured on that article are going to be drafted by us pretty, expeditiously. So I'm glad to get a guy who went 2 for 2 on his catches last year for his points.
There you go. All right. So I'm going to go, this is a position I think is really wide open. But here's a guy, we've heard his name a bunch since he's been on campus. I'm going to go Tyree Kelly at receiver.
Great.
That was my...
Almost took him too. Almost took him with my second pick.
It seems like he's getting a lot of buzz. He's been called out by name a few times in press conferences. And some of the videos they put out, he's the guy catching the ball. So I think what's a little bit more fun, I think, about this year's draft as we go through it is, especially at receiver, last year you had a pretty established top 2 guys that were going to get a ton of targets, this year. I mean, it could be like 1 of 8 guys could end up being the leading receiver. So I think it's very open this year, and that should make this a little bit more fun. But Nathan, you got the back-to-back now.
Back-to-back. So I think I'm going to stick with wide receiver. I'm going to take Naeem Simmons. I feel pretty good about it. He's a guy that's kind of shown flashes, and you always worry about guys leveling up. But I think he was one of the top guys in the portal leveling up in the slot, and I think it kind of showed. So I'm excited to see kind of what he can do in this offense. I think he's kind of in the same mold as your Chaffee Brown pick, where he's pretty healthy, but he's quick out of the slot. It'll be interesting to see how they kind of work everything around for them. And then I'm gonna have to take. I guess I'm gonna have to take Mikey Dukes, right? That's gonna have to be my running back.
Or come on,
Powell. Actually, you know what? No, I'm gonna take Jalen Johnson.
Oh, interesting. Is it Jalen with a Y, I believe? Let me double check. It's Jalen with a Y. Is this
point,
a legal hedge here?
At this point, I'm kind of trying to figure out can he do other things other than be a running back in this offense, and I think he can. So that's a flyer pick right there in the 6th round, but I like it.
I like it. All right, so we're back to me here, right?
Indeed.
I'm gonna go ahead and go with the flex player. I've been talking about him since I'm gonna take Jaquan Smith.
Great pick.
That's my flex. Just
That might be a return guy.
Just kind of a shot in the dark. Super explosive. I would imagine there's a way to get on the field for him early. The practice we saw, and this was something we put in the insider section of Discord in the Ponderosa, we saw him on the bike, not really going through practice on the bike, but he's since been in videos, so he's practicing now full speed. So, he's a guy that I think Golish the other day, ran a 10.3 in high school, and that shows up. Well, if that's showing up, then he's got to play somewhere, right? If you got a 10.3 guy that can play, he's got to get on the field, especially for a team that's not been great. What do you got to lose, right? So he's kind of a big swing. My last two picks are kind of big swings towards kind of good camps. Now maybe it comes back to bite me because they're not older guys and they'll hit a wall, but I'll just take some big swings here. Steeg,
definitely a great dynasty draft.
Yeah, there's
come back to that one next year.
If we're going dynasty draft,
yeah. These guys are good. I'm definitely gonna pitch for some keepers for next year. We'll see. All right, Steeg, back to you. You got 2 picks.
2 picks. I got to go with the 2 positions I'm missing right now. As Nate alluded to, it's kind of wide open as far as who's there 2 through 9, really. So up first, Jaden Alexis, transfer from Texas. Burner speed, originally from Florida, so he's already well acclimated there. And then going with the theme of Mr. Consistency, Mr. Professor Dr. Sean Atkins at wide receiver there. Oh, you thought I was going for I thought I was going off the rails there for a second. No. So obviously a newcomer and then a guy that's been around the program for a good bit, Sean Atkins. Love him, hate him, whatever your feelings are with him. That man is always being featured on either the 1s or the 2s. He's always getting good playing time. He's always He's a bring his work pail to lunch, or bring his work pail to work every day. And yeah, love it. His lunch pail to work. Those are the words.
There it is.
There it is. It took me 4 tries.
You got it.
Steeg is currently having an out-of-body experience by actually drafting well, but he can't get his words right.
I'm excited. There's a chance I don't look like an idiot today.
This is a very competitive league. It's going to be.
That's what I think. This is going to really. It's gonna. If we keep with the quarterback rule, it's going to be hyper competitive. I think so. All right. I really don't know what to do at linebacker, so I might wait and see if somebody see what you do, Steve, and then kind of work off of that. But so I think I'm gonna go to tight end. I'm going to go with Gunnar Greenwald. He just seems to be a guy that I think his blocking will get him. He had some times last year. Now, it wasn't like a strength. He kind of waned a little bit. Sometimes he was good. Sometimes he was bad. But another year, he looks huge when you see him on the field. He looks like he's gained weight. He was known as a really good receiver coming into college. So I think he's a guy that can fit. I've debated another tight end, but Gunnar's a little more established, so I'll go with him. But I think there's probably value in all 3 of the tight ends that end up getting drafted. But I'm going to go with Gunnar. He's been around the block a little bit, so I'll give him the leg up here. Nathan?
Man. Let's do this. Let's put Mikey Dukes at flex. Because he's another guy just like Jalen Johnson who he could be returning kicks. He could be the punt returner. So I know it kind of seems like he's the 3rd running back right now. But he could provide some value. I think Brian Battie probably going into the last season was probably the third running back, and we saw how that turned out. So can't really complain there. And then I'll take Rashad Cheney as my defensive lineman. Much like in the NFL, you can wait to draft tight ends because if you don't get the top tier, it doesn't really matter. They're all interchangeable.
All right. So let's see. That was round 8, pick 1, right? All right. So it's back to me. Yeah, I don't know what to do at linebacker. It's to me that's a pretty difficult because you have some guys that are established, and then you got some guys that transferred in. I would imagine they didn't transfer to not play, right? So let me see. I'm trying to pull some stats here. That didn't work. All right. Great. The site's not updated with a new bio. Cool. All right. I'm gonna go with Jamie Petway.
Interesting
choice.
I really debated it, but he's a guy that played in the system. He transferred here. I don't think they told him, "Hey, come over here so you can ride the bench." I think there's a lot of options. I think I'm just kind of going with his familiarity, even though he got in late. Just the familiarity he had. I went back and was watching FAU against Western Kentucky, which, hey, did you guys know they played last year?
Hey.
So little Todd Orlando got a little look-see. So I'm going to go with Petway. I think there's this is another position. I think receiver, there's maybe 4 or 5 guys you could go with and feel decent about them. So,
and Petway stats for you, Seth, I got them pulled up from College Football Reference. 52 tackles, 21 solo, 2 tackles for loss, a sack, and a pass defense. That was last season. And then he played 6 games in the SEC at one point. So there's that.
There we go. That's all I needed to hear. Great pick.
Great pick. I thought you were going in a different direction, so that's the direction I'm going. Give me Andrew Matafa.
Yeah, I think there's a lot at linebacker, right? He's not. I don't think you're going to pick him for your flex, Steeg. So I hope I'm not tipping a pick here, but
no,
Schuler. It's a guy that he made a pick in the scrimmage the other day. He's probably going to play a good bit too, but all right, I'm going to go.
And that's M-A-T-A
let me pull the
apostrophe AFA. Talked to him at the Portal Bay event, so I got that the lowdown on pronunciation guide because that's not updated yet.
Say he's a bad
Mataafa.
And
his tattoos in real life, sickest tattoos I've ever seen on a team on a player.
There you go.
He played 13 games in the Pac-12 last season, 8 tackles and half a tackle for loss for Utah. This is year 5 for him playing college football.
And he seems to be a guy that was more of a special teams guy there, right? Like he didn't get as much, so maybe those numbers will pop up. But that's why I thought Petway had a little bit more production, so that's why I went with him. But and the familiarity. But I mean, I think there's 3 or 4 guys at linebacker that could end up being the leading tackler of that group. So
seriously, and that's not even including like a guy like Mac Harris, who I've heard is making strides at linebacker, converting from defensive back. So a lot of options there. Oh, does it come down to me on my last pick?
It's time for your flex pick.
My flex pick. Man, the entire board is available to me. There's so many options. Well,
take Izzy Carter just to screw us up.
And in fact, I do think we're going to see a good bit of all these quarterbacks. But no, we have to give love where love is given. Give me Brendan Farrell, our prized kicker transfer from Virginia.
How the hell are we going to score points? How are we going to score kickers, man? Come on,
we're going to figure it out.
We got to do negative. So we're going to have to do negative points for missed kicks.
Yes.
We are.
All right, man.
Which which is I guess is a bit of a gamble. He didn't have the most productive season last year.
Officially the kicker.
Yeah, that's the other thing. I almost went with John Cannon because of his name.
In fact, name.
Ooh, man, I could go. You know what? I'm going to be cheering for both these guys. Give me John Cannon in actuality, because you can't not have a kicker named John Cannon on your team. Yeah.
That is, I think that could end up being like a really productive pick, or if it's not
Boy,
the kicker,
that's gonna screw you up.
Yeah, if he's not playing.
Yeah.
All right, Seth, for you.
All right, so you're probably watching the draft and you're thinking, I had a chance to pick the guys that are probably going to get the most reps at quarterback. Am I an idiot? Maybe. But I also think that Izzy Carter, when I hear Golish talk, he doesn't reference him, but he's talked about having packages for guys. I think Izzy Carter might just have a package in the game plan. Like, I don't think I don't think they're necessarily going to have to wait for injury to play him, just because of his explosiveness in the run game. So I'm taking him. I think, and then I think there's also, if the season starts going downhill, which one of these quarterbacks is Golish's guy?
Yep.
Izzy Carter.
He also mentioned he would not stupidly burn a red shirt. So
last 4 games, baby.
Yeah. So if we're teetering on the brink of maybe having to burn a red shirt with only like 2 games left, I think that's probably worst case scenario for you, Seth. But if we're 4 or 5 games in, and it's like, are these 7 games of him just being purely the starter? If things go sideways for Byram and Gary, you gotta balance that. And then with the final pick in our second annual draft, I'll take Weston Wolf and call it a day.
Oh.
Every time he scores, you have to howl.
I don't think any of these tight ends are going to be particularly productive. I know they had very good tight ends at Tennessee.
They didn't have world beaters though. They weren't like,
they were big, massive dudes who could like do some stuff. Like they were definitely.
I don't think any of them were NFL. I don't think any of them were NFL guys. I mean, I didn't watch a ton, but none of those guys were like height, weight, speed freaks. They were big guys.
No.
That had like, it was kind of a mix, one or the other. You had a bigger guy that's a better blocker, maybe a better receiver.
Right. I don't see any of these guys changing the world and changing the offense. Alex Golish kind of mentioned at his previous stops, Iowa State, they had 3 really good tight ends, and they would kind of roll through them. At Central Florida, they had good running backs. Tennessee, I think they had 3 wide receivers who ended up in the NFL. So he's definitely a guy who's going to change his scheme to fit his personnel. And I think we're going to see less 12 personnel, probably less 11 personnel. Maybe I think we may see some 10. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Or some 20.
Obviously, yeah. Just depending on how the offensive line gels. And we'll get into that in our Patreon show.
Yeah. Patreon Extra, we're going to do an extensive offensive preview. You heard some of our thoughts here on the draft, but if you are a $10 a month and up patron, you get that as part of your Patreon benefits. So you get 4 extra pods a month. You get access to the Discord. That starts at the $5 level. It's, there's other boards out there that are dying. This one is rising from their ashes like a phoenix. So I think we offer a pretty good value for the information we have in there. Everybody that's joined has felt pretty happy about the information and the value. It's half of kind of what the other recruiting sites are. So if you just want that message board, some insider info, we got insider recruiting stuff, what we hear from the staff regarding scrimmages and things like that, what we see with our eyes at practices, all that kind of stuff. That starts at $5 a month on Patreon. So, and if you just want to join the conversation, you can join the Discord for free. But the insider section is through Patreon. So join us, please.
And with that wraps up our Pod by the Bay USF football fantasy draft. As always, we'll keep tabs and follow up every week, and we'll also have the best of the rest. So, if Ryan Boldick or Bryce Archie ends up getting extensive playing time, they will be leading the charge for the best of the rest, and we'll keep you guys updated. Thanks for tuning in to another edition of Pod by the Bay. Go Bulls.
Go Bulls.
Go Bulls.